Berachos Daf Mem Vav. Who is moitzi everybody with hamoitzi and cuts the challah? The host, the balabais. The Gemara tells us that Reb Zera was very sick, and Reb Avo accepted upon himself that if Reb Zera has a refuah shlema, will be healed, he'll throw him a huge party. The Gemara says that they used to call Reb Zera the short, burnt one. His legs were burnt. Reb Zera would test himself out once a month, put himself in an oven, and see if he would be burnt like he would be burnt in Gehenim. 1 month there was an ayin hara, and in fact his feet got burnt. Reb Zera had a full recovery. They threw him a big party. Reb Avo says, I want you to cut the bread and be mighty everybody. Reb Zera says, no, the balabais has to do so. So he said, okay, but I want you to be mizamen, lead us with zimun. Says Reb Zera, no, I hold that the person that cuts the bread, he's the person who does zimun. Rabbi Yochanan holds that the balabais cuts the bread. That's true. But zimun, the guest should do zimun. Why? Because the guest will give a bracha to the host and it will say Hi Ratzai. The famous Hi Ratzai, Shelo Yevosh balabais hazeh, loy ba'olam hazeh, v'loy ba'olam haba. The owner shouldn't have any embarrassment, not in this world and not in the world to come. Rav Yosef adds, V'yitzlach moed b'chol nechasav, v'yu nechasim utzlachim k'rovim le'ir, v'yu nechasim v'nechaseinu utzlachim k'rovim le'ir. V'yishal tzot and loy b'masi yoda v'loy b'masi yodeinu v'yizdakir loy lefanav v'loy fanenu shum dvar hiru chet v'aver v'avoin me'atov v'adilam. According to Rav Nachman, zimun is like what we do today. You say Rabbi Yisrael V'reich, and when you finish, you start Baruch Atah Hashem Hazanas Olam Kulei B'Tuvai. But according to Rav Sheshes, and this is only according to Rashi, it's incredible. Rav Sheshes holds that Hazanas Olam Kulei B'Tuvai is part of zimun. That is, if you're not benching with 3 people, you're just benching by yourself. You don't say Hazanas Olam Kulei B'Tuvai. You just start Noidel L'cha Hashem Likenu. That's where benching starts. It's unbelievable. Taisis Mechulik on Rashi. Same thing would be, let's say if 3 people are benching together and they asked one of them to stop eating because 2 have to go. So the one that stopped eating and he continues eating later on by himself, this is machlokes. Where does he start from? According to Chachamim, that's the halach. According to Rashi, he would start from Noida because he's all by himself. According to Abaya, he goes back. He says, Azon Selam Kulei B'Tuvai. 2 brises that seem to contradict each other. How do we explain these brises? According to Rav Nachman and according to Rav Sheshes. One brise says that sometimes benching is only 2 brachas and sometimes it's 3. The second brisa says sometimes benching is 3 brachas and sometimes it's 4. According to Rav Nachman, we could explain that the first brisa is referring to workers. The workers, they say Bnei Yerushalayim as part of Ala Arz V'Ala Mazon. So that's 2 brachas that are actually 1. So if it's only 2 people, they only have 2 brachas. They have Hazanas Olam and they have Haaretz. If they're benching Bezimun, you add 1 more because the Zimun is considered a bracha. The second brisa Rav Nachman would say is talking about regular people. And regular people say, Bnei Yerushalayim, that's a bracha. So either you have 3 brachas when you're benching just by yourself, or 4 brachas if you add zimun to it. According to Rav Sheshes, zimun goes all the way through Hazan Salam Kulei B'Tuvai, all the way to Naida. Therefore, the machlokes between the brises is whether or not the final bracha of Atov HaMeitiv is the Rabbanon D'Oraisa. We took it for granted up until this point that it's the Rabbanon. There's a mandama that says it's the D'Oraisa. And therefore, the first brisa holds that it's the Rabbanon. So if 2 people are benching, you have only 2 brachas. Because you only start by Noida. And if it's 3 people benching, you add to that the Zimun, that's the 3rd bracha. And if you hold, like the second brisa, that Hatov HaMeitiv is the D'Oraisa, so now you add to everything a 4th bracha of Hatov HaMeitiv. The Gemara proves 3 proofs that Hatov HaMeitiv is the Rabbanon. One proof is from the fact that workers could skip Hatov HaMeitiv. They have to skip Hatov HaMeitiv. In other words, it's the Rabbanon. Another proof is that Hatov HaMeitiv starts with Baruch Atah Hashem, but doesn't end with a bracha. And if it was part of benching, if it was part of the Eraisa, it would be called a bracha smucha l'chaverta. It's a bracha that's next to its friend, and it should not start with Baruch, because the rule is the only brachas that start with Baruch are short brachas like brachas haperis on food or brachas on mitzvahs. A few exceptions to the rule. Bracha of Kriya Shema, for instance, emes v'yatziv starts without a Baruch, but ends with a Baruch. Now, another raya is that in the Aval's house, you don't say Hatov HaMeitiv according to Rebbe Akiva, and that would prove that it's not a D'Oraisa. The Gemara says that Mar Zutra went to the Beis Aval, he went to be Menachem Aval Rav Ashi, and this is La Halacha, that in benching, you say, okay, Lavinu Makinu Adirinu Barinu Galinu Yitzreinu, etc., until you get to Gemalanu. You say Hatov HaMeitiv, and then you say, Kail Emes, Dayan emes. Shofet b'tzedek. He judges with truth and with tzedek. Lokeh b'mishpat v'shal b'ilama. He rules the world. Lasis b'kitzoni as he wishes. Yichal dracha mishpat. Shakol shaloi. Everything is his. L'chol. Anachnu chayim l'hoydis loi. We always have to bench for everything. L'varchay. Goyder pirtzis b'Yisrael. He knows how to mend the holes in Klal Yisrael when we have a loss. Hu yigder sa pirtzah zoy. He should mend this pirtzah b'Yisrael l'chayim. The Gemara tells us interesting conversation that the Rish Golos had with Rav Sheshes. He tells him, the Rish Golos, the Parsim, the Persians, they know how to have dinner etiquette. In fact, when a very important person comes in, he would sit down first. He would lay down and lean. And the second to him would lean right above his head. In other words, there was an issue here. The important person, if he wanted to converse with the second in command, he would have to sit up and turn his body. And that's not proper for an important person. But the Parsim, they knew sign language. They would go like this with their hands, and the person behind them would understand everything. Ma'im Rishonim, they would start from the most important person, and they would bring his small little table immediately, so he didn't have to worry about keeping his hands clean. Ma'im Achronim, they start from the least important person, but they will keep the table in front of the important person, so he would have what to do. Rav Sheshes says, I don't know anything about Persians. I know about Brises. And in the Brisa, it says, yes, that the most important person sits down first. However, the second to him sits below him, so that the important person can converse with him without straining his neck. The third important person sits, well, if there's three people, so now you reverse it. Now you put the second person above him and the third person below him, because Rashi explains it's better and it looks more chashav when the important person has to strain his neck for somebody more important. Therefore, let him strain his neck for the second in command rather than the third. How do you do? Ma'im Rishonim, yes, we start with the most important person. But Ma'im Achronim is different. Ma'im Achronim, you start, if there's 5 people left, then the fifth one, he's the most important person. He's the one that starts with Ma'im Achronim, and he's the one that does Zimun. However, if there's a lot of people, 100 people, you start from the least important person until you work your way up 95 people later, till you have 5 people left. When you have 5 people left, then the most important person washes his hands, Ma'im Achronim, and he does Zimun. Have a wonderful day.